Last week, remember the VP's out for a week, so I'll talk to them next week. But you know, I'm at the right level there. We're having good discussion, so I'm pretty happy with that deal.
Oh, okay. And what about Citrix? What's going on with those guys?
Citrix is going well. So I had a meeting with the guy on Friday. They looked at the paperwork. It's with their lawyers right now, so you know, I'm following up on that probably the week after that.
Okay. Okay. So time out. So that's an okay conversation. Now here's the problem. The problem is when that happens, when you have that same conversation the next week. Same cast of characters, the lingo's changed a little bit, but you're like, that sounds a little familiar. Then you go to the next week, and then you hear that same conversation.
But hopefully you're not analyzing your data this way. So more to the point, I think as a salesperson, and even as a sales manager, there is a lot to talk about here. And it really comes back to, as a salesperson, as a CEO of a company, how are you gathering all this data? So a quick talk about CRMs. I mean, there really is no reason why your sales team or even you shouldn't be using a CRM. It's a place to collect all your data, and you'll see in a minute here why it's actually important to do that. And it's not a lot of extra steps. And you can use things like Zoho that we use, and you know it's free for 2 users or 3 users, or you could use Salesforce. It really doesn't matter, but you need something. And you know, more times than not, I get involved and we start talking about sales reporting, and we start talking about it about 3 days before quarterly reports due, or before a board meeting, or before an investor presentation, and the CEO says, they look at their Excel spreadsheet and they say, well, we can't just pin up this Excel spreadsheet. It just doesn't scream, you know, I got this all under control, don't worry about a thing. And so what we do is we take the data in that CRM that everyone's entered and you know, made use of, and we dump it to Excel, and then we can really start to do some things about it. I mean, CRMs are great for collecting the data and things like that, but I think you'll find that unfortunately, from a reporting spot, and they're getting better, but as a manager, they always kind of leave me one step from what I'm really looking for. And so this is just one of the examples of why it's so important, right? These are standard reports that are now in Excel that you can really easily cut and copy, throw in an investor deck, throw in a presentation. You know, you've got a nice defined set of stages, looks good. You know, these say you know what you're talking about. It says I got it all under control, right? This is something that you can present to people. But a little more tactically, I mean, another example is just how do you use this reporting to help drive your success, right? And this is one of the ways. So I did this just last week with a client. We had 2 sales reps. Sales 2 is doing just fine. Sales rep 1 not so fine. You know, it was pretty easy. I pulled up this report and said, well, geez, you know, why is sales rep 1 not doing as good as sales rep 2? Well, they're not having as many meetings. They're not talking to as many customers. Well, what are they doing? You know, and quite honestly, if I didn't have this report and this data to go to, yeah, you know, they're in the office every day. I hear them on the phone. You know, I don't know what the problem is. It's probably not that. So it allowed us to really set some goals, right? So I want you to make this many calls. Let's talk to this many customers. Let's have this many demos. And we got to really to the heart of the issue and really got to identify some things. And so that was helpful. And so you would have that report now. Whereas if you didn't have that, you just wouldn't know, right? You would just assume that the person's doing what they need to do. And then let's dive in a little deeper. And the great part about this is Ross briefly touched on, but it's about a defined set of stages, right? So at some point, you're going to either guess or you're going to know what the sales process should look like. And you're going to know whether that's, you know, my very first appointment is a demo or whether my 3rd call is a demo. And when you set those defined stages, it goes back to exactly what you're saying. As a CEO, when you look at something at 10%, you know that means they had, you know, for example, an appointment set and they have this going. So whenever anyone asks you, well, what's this $1 million at 10%? You can say, well, those are deals that we've set appointments for and have a timeline. Okay, sounds reasonable. So it really makes sense and it allows you to have those conversations.